What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I want to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers, and break down some very important technical levels to be watching for as time progresses, and what's going on with the news affecting the markets in the pre-market for today. But before I break anything down all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am personally not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. This offer ends tomorrow, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, let's break down what's going on with the market. So when we look at the hourly time frame on SPY, you will notice that the market is gapped up this morning. We're up 0.5%. Tesla's also up quite a bit. But the market's starting to cool off a bit, and I do think that there's a risk of the market cooling off a little more to fill this gap. And if we establish a higher low, this could be an inverse head and shoulders that's forming on SPY for this thing to bounce very, very nicely and start pushing to the upside. And that's assuming that 409 is the bottom. So we might see a little drop in balance. That's the most likely probable move so far. But we're going to be watching to see, does the 409 bottom hold on this drop? If this holds on SPY, this could mean that the market's about to bottom and we're about to see some upside as we get closer to November. And this is what seasonality tends to suggest. So when it comes to the market, I just want to call out some very important things going on. So some good news that came out is we had some good earnings. SoFi came out. Their EPS was a little bit lower than expected, but their revenue was a nice beat. And they're also telling us about some decent estimates as time goes on. So looking at the potential future, we got a decent beat for SoFi. There's also this news coming out about the other earnings, which are still looking quite decent. November tends to be a better month, so we're going to be watching to see how the Fed affects us on November 1st. And looking at some earnings that have come out, we're seeing McDonald's announcing right now. There's also some news coming out about GM. Basically, they're very close to a deal with the UAW, which is a decent piece of news for them, and this could lead to improvements in their, overall companies, and this could help relieve a lot of stress. Moving forward, the pharmacy workers at chains like Walgreens across the U.S., many of them are saying that they're very overworked, and this has led to some temporary walkouts, which is starting to affect these companies. So it's worth noting. We'll see what happens to their any changes within the companies, any changes with their representation and such. So we'll be waiting for that very carefully. And the White House is once again weighing in on AI, talking more about how it's going to affect the future and things like that, and how the government's going to continue to address privacy violations and such. So we're going to be looking into that going forward. For now, we're just going to be watching to see how the market moves. Now, when it comes to our economic calendar, expect some volatility. That's 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, or an hour after the market opens. And then at 11:30 a.m., expect the 3-month bill auction, maybe the 6-month bill auction to be coming out. So expect more volatility after the first and second hours of the trading day for today. As a reminder, I just wanted to mention that there's not much going on for tomorrow, but then for Wednesday, we have the notorious FOMC meeting. We have the rate hike decision and Jerome Powell giving his speech. So we're going to be watching this all very, very carefully. And last but not least, guys, the fear and greed index is at extreme fear. The market is super fearful. And we're seeing many signals suggest that the market is bottoming right now. So I believe the market's in the bottoming process and a nice bounce is on the table soon in the future. So now let's break down how the market's looking, how is SPY looking, and etc. So basically the market got this nice push up in the morning. When you look at the hourly, the market is trying to uptrend, but the thing is, the market's trying to cool off just a little bit right here, and we basically gapped up. So this makes me think that there's a possibility that we might come down to fill this gap all the way down to 411 flat. If we lose, all right, listen to me carefully. If we lose this 412.5 support, I anticipate we're going to come down towards this gap to about 411. But if we hold this 409 area, that means the market could have bottomed right there, and then the market could bounce off that. And I think that's the most likely possibility. So we're going to be watching these levels carefully. If we blast, to the upside, you want to see this thing hold 414. If we break that, watch for 415 and 416 as two resistance levels. If we continue to break down, watch 412.5 as support. If we lose that, watch it come down towards 411.5. If we lose that, watch this gap get filled towards 411. My gut tells me we're going to see sellers step in a bit, and they may actually cool the market down a little bit. There could be a cool off to fill this gap down here, but the market's going to bounce afterwards and try to push right back up. I think that this could be like the bottoming process for another liquidity grab. I think that this is going to have a big effect on the whole market, but watch those levels just to be safe. For the QQQ, watch resistance at 348. If we manage to break above this, we have potential to test the next resistance very close to this 349.5 area. Then we have 350. For support, we're going to be watching this 347 area. If we lose this, watch the level at 346.5. If we lose that, watch this gap get filled for 345.5. But the QQQ is also likely in a double bottom-like formation. Not a double bottom, but kind of like a bottoming formation. And this could be a slanted inverse head and shoulders. So there is a risk of downside into open where the market comes down to fill this gap and then we bounce after that. I think that that's still very possible on the triple Q. As for Tesla, we're going to be watching this resistance up here at this 210 to 11 area. We're going to be watching to see if the market's going to attempt to hold this. If we break this, there is some resistance at 212 to be watching for. That's some critical resistance. And Tesla has a potential inverse head and shoulder structure forming, but I would love to see this gap get filled first. I want to see Tesla come down just a little bit, establish a higher low, right? We could come down to this 207 to 208 area, come down a little bit, establish this gap fill, and then bounce very nicely and start pushing up even higher back up to 212. So look for a drop and pop for today. Tesla has a nice inverse head and shoulder structure, but I could see some downside first before we bounce. And if we have truly bottomed for Tesla, expect some upside to come later on. I do anticipate a November bounce to be coming for the markets, but for the short term, there could be a bit more selling to come to start us off. As for Nvda, I was talking about some potential downside that could come on Nvda. Nvda also happens to have this gap at 40. I think it's at 407. Let me double check this. It's like at 406. If Nvidia loses 408, watch it come down to 406 to fill this gap. But it has like a double bottom like formation, and this could be a nice inverse head and shoulders that's forming. So I would like to see this cool off a little bit, then bounce off 406 and start uptrending towards 416 all over again. But look for a little drop first, a little drop down here. I want to see this gap get filled first before a bounce. So if we lose 408, watch 406 for the gap fill, then a bounce near 405. And for resistance, if we get above like 412, this thing could start pushing up for like 414.5 and 417. We're going to be watching to see if we get that bounce or not, but it's going to be very critical for us moving forward. That's it for almost everything except for like Aapl stock. Looking at Aapl, once again, Aapl, we had this nice uptrend being respected on Aapl, but starting to cool off a little bit. Came short of our 170 target. It actually came a little short. So we could see Aapl cool off just a little bit more. We're going to be watching to see if this support holds. Watch 168. We also have this imbalance at 168 flat. And if Aapl loses this trend line, we could come down a bit more and then try to bounce, or we could cool off from here. But if we hold this channel, Aapl could start uptrending, approaching its earnings, and this could be a little exciting. So look for a little drop and then a pop on Aapl. Aapl may be a little stronger than the market, but I still think the market could see a little downside, just a tiny drop before the bulls step in. But one thing I've been very consistent in and when making these claims is that I think the market's in the bottoming process as these indicators are showing us. There's going to be a very nice bounce very, very soon. All right, guys, so watch these levels carefully. Let's see if Aapl could try to break above 169 to get up to 170. If we lose the support right here, watch it come down to this imbalance at 168 flat. If that fails us, 166 is coming. My gut tells me Apple's going to outperform a bit, could drop a little bit more, then try to bounce, and it may just try to hold up in this range, at least for the time being. All right, so that's what I'm seeing for Aapl, and that's it for today's video. I'll see you guys very soon in the afternoon, but make sure you watch these levels and look for the potential moves to come. All right, so thank you for listening. Have a good one, and peace out.